Hello, and welcome to another episode of How Did We Get Here? um, it's a new episode. I know the last one was kind of long, but there was a lot of building involved. And today we're going to continue on with the building. You can see over my left shoulder, I guess to your right, whatever. On top of the garbage can, I got a couple of boards. Basically, today I'm going to build a ton of boxes. So here we go. Oops, there is one decision I have to make before I start, because the first box I'm going to build is going to be adjacent to this box, and I've been debating, but now that I look at it, let's see if I can show you. If I line up parallel to the box, it actually hits the sprinkler first. So what I was debating was whether to build the box to come all the way out to the front wall here. There's two problems. That's one. And the other problem is basically if I'm doing it this way so I can get to the piping underneath, then I really need to build that first box to match this particular depth here. So that's what I'm going to do. That's 13 inches. I'm going to make it 9 by 13. So let's get started. Okay, that takes care of all the sanding. I just don't like splinters, and I've got enough little injuries already. So I just sand it down. It just helps in general. Now I'm going to set up the table saw and actually narrow it on the sides. I don't know how to describe that. Basically, I'm going to cut it down to width so that these sides are parallel. That just makes for neater boxes, and then it's going to be a matter of taking measurements and cutting all the individual pieces for 5 boxes, one of which is going to be 2 levels deep, so that's 6 boxes. But actually, looking at it, I think I bought one more board than I actually needed, just in case something went wrong, because the whole point when I bought all the lumber was to not have to go back out and get more. That way I can just stay home and not expose myself to this horrible virus that's going on. So let me set up the table saw and you can watch me cut. Phew, that was a bit of work, but we've got 2 boxes here, 2 boxes there, and the shorter 9-inch box there. You know, honestly, while I was building these things, they didn't feel like they were that big, but they do look a little bit bigger once in place, and it's deceptive. It's not like the circular pots that we're all used to, but I've kind of learned this, is that with the rectangular, you can actually mix and match sizes and really fill an area efficiently, and you gain, I forget what the number was, probably like 25-30% if you have an 18-inch wide rectangular pot versus circular. You gain some there. So it's interesting. I can look up the calculation. I could put that here, but the point is, it's a little bit more efficient. Now I got things put together. I can put stuff in the front. I can fill up the back. I can do everything that I've been talking about. Just to get to this point really is victory. So I'm going to pick up tomorrow, and we'll start sifting and placing other things and go from there. Right? See you then. Good morning, gardening friends. It is the next day. Yesterday I did quite a bit of work. For some of you it may not be a full day, but with somebody with a bad back, I'm actually doing fairly well. I think since I started this project, just doing more and more each day and requiring less and less painkillers to get through it. So I'm doing pretty good, but it is getting hot, and I just wanted to see, after yesterday, just how much dust is going to come off of this. Okay, yeah, now you know I'm bald. So my goal, it's getting warm. Yesterday it got up around 90 degrees in mid-January. This is Southern California for you. I mean, it's been dry. We had wildfires going on, smaller wildfires, not the ones that'll probably be carried on the national news, but that's what we had. And it's going to get warm again today, and I'm actually starting later than usual. So what I'm thinking here is my goal would be to get rid of at least one of these 3, if I can get that in frame. I've got the 3 bins there that I've got various things in. I want to get rid of at least one of them, get it out of the way. If I can't really finish up getting everything lined up behind me there, and filled up with soil. So at least get rid of one of these. That would be the goal for today. If I can go further, I will. And with that, let's get started. Okay, hopefully this is obvious from this particular angle, but these boxes are not all leveled out and ready to go. So I'm going to grab a board and a tape measure and figure it out. And there are a number of rocks up right up there that are actually out of frame right now. But I'm going to grab those because there's some small ones in there, and I can use them to level up. Once I'm leveled up, then I can move on to the next step. Actually, before I get to leveling, I've got to get them positioned, and so looking at it, I realized that I may want to put blocks back there, and if I want to put the blocks back there, I have to have enough room for them, and that's really what's going to set the distance between the wall here and the back of the box. And so I was trying to figure out how could I do that without moving blocks back and forth and killing my back. Well, turns out these 2x6s that I have bits and pieces of are about the same width, as actually slightly wider than the blocks. So if I can make this fit in, then the blocks will fit in. And so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, it turns out there's a couple of spots right up about there where the mortar, when they did the wall originally, is sticking out and preventing me from fitting. You can see I put a box as a test fit on the left, and then I want to be able to get the block in on the right. Well, it's just a little too tight, so I'm going to use the hammer and cold chisel there and knock those little high spots off. Alright, we're gaining on it. It looks a little, actually looks a little wonky from this perspective. I need to double check that, but I've got it mostly leveled. Yeah, I need to double check. I hadn't come and looked at it from this perspective, but ultimately then the next thing is going to be I'm going to start filling it up with soil. Okay, let's make that take two. It's still not perfect, but I think I can level it up even more. I can fine tune it more once I start filling everything with soil, which is kind of the plan. Ultimately now I'm going to sift the soil, try and separate the soil from the pebbles. The pebbles are going to go in the back, leaving enough room to put a block, at least for the moment. And on the front, leaving enough to actually put like one of those long planters I've got there. If not, actually I can build more planters that'll fit, build them custom to fit in there. But that's kind of the plan. I got to get going with the soil if I'm ever going to get one of those tubs removed today. Okay, it's almost break time, so I figured I should record something before I forget. I filled up those first two boxes. I've packed around them with the gravel that I've sifted out. I started doing these two boxes. I wanted to get this one full so it would kind of stay stable while I started putting the river rock in. So ultimately, I'm going to keep putting the river rock in until it fills up to the top, and I'm hoping that'll work. I'm hoping I have enough. If I have excess, I'm going to let it spill out to the left and to the right, roughly evenly, which means I don't need to have the blocks back there. I'm going to try not to let them into the left and the right up front here, because ultimately that's where more planter boxes will go. I've got an overflow at this point of the gravel, so I started putting that in this one, which I emptied out of all its dirt, so that's kind of where things are. I'm going to keep loading river rock and then take lunch. Alright, I'd call that a good effort before break time. Got all the river rock in. Wasn't quite enough, so I put the stepping stone in there to kind of take up some room. It's still not 100% full, but I think that'll still work. I can put the blocks behind to fill in, and then I'll figure it out from there. Up front is still room for more planter boxes, so still a bunch more to do, but almost to the point where I can just clean up a bunch of stuff and leave it for a couple of days, so I'm happy. Good morning, gardening friends. It's the next day, and as you can tell, I quit after my break. As it turned out, I was just seriously overheated. I went in and I realized I wasn't cooling down, and that's not a good thing. So it was better not to go back out and do any more. I went out and I cleaned up a little bit, but now we're back at it this morning, so at least I'm being smart about it. So here we are. We've got a little bit more left to go. Let me see if I can actually do this. So you can see what it's all looking like. The sprinklers went off this morning, so you get some idea what this is all looking like. And I've still got this one here to do, and maybe a little bit more in here. Sorry, try to get my perspective right. A little more in here, and then the others of the soil is actually settled after the sprinklers went off. So that's what I'm going to do, is get back to sifting and fill up the rest of the boxes and then go from there. Well, that took a little bit of effort. Let's take a look at what we've got now. You could probably see that I was removing from this one box repeatedly because I knew that I was going to have too much soil. This box would have just been overflowing into either the front or the back. So I ended up dumping it over here. I got a nice big pile of soil there. Sorry, the shadow's kind of hiding it. This one is now empty. That's good. And this one, which you could kind of see me going after, is the extra gravel that I had. So Now I think the next step is I'm going to go in and repack all of these, especially where they've settled, and try and get them back up to a normal level. Although when I transplant, it's going to end up I'm going to end up pulling some of the soil back out again. It's just going to be a kind of a balance to try and get it all. But let me get this soil in, and then we'll attack the gravel. Victory! Now they're all packed. I basically wanted to add enough soil so they wouldn't settle too much more. I didn't want to pack it too tight, so it's just kind of firm. But I've got them all packed, so they all look that much more even. Now I think the next thing is I need to go retrieve a couple more of the blocks, like that one there. I'm going to put one here to the left of the pathway and one to the right of the pathway, and I have to see if I've got any more, but let me get those two and get them in. Well, I found 3 of them. Turns out I had 3 of the blocks. I have more of the, what do you call it? Pathway stepping stones. They're just basically concrete stepping stones. They're nothing really fancy. They're a little wet right now because where they were really dirty. And I guess you just have to look at the previous episode when I do the weekly update to see what that looks like. Actually, maybe even a couple episodes before that at the rate this is going. But anyway, you'll see where I pulled them out, and then eventually I'm going to tear apart another part of the hardscape and restore the one that I tore apart to get these stones, just because they were the right color, which may not be totally obvious because, like I said, they're still wet, but everything's packed. I've used up all of the gravel that I had. I fill the blocks, and then I put the stepping stones on top. So we've got a pathway forward, and then you can step on the stones to get over to that direction. I need to put one more with that block over there. I need to fill in that whole area behind the boxes, but that's why I put this other stone here, block here, is to be able to fill it up the rest of the way with more gravel, which I've got some bigger rocks and what have you, and I'm sure with all the hardscaping I'll be able to fill that in before too long. There should be enough down here for the stuff in front. But I'm basically done for the day except for cleanup, and I think tomorrow or maybe Monday I'll deal with transplanting the plants. I was going to do that today, but this was more work again than I anticipated. But I think it's looking pretty decent. So let me finish cleaning up. I'll give you one more update before the end of the day. Alright, now, well, this is a familiar route into the backyard, but now it looks a little bit different. There's still a couple of things to do, but if you can sort of imagine, I need build some boxes to fill in some of these gaps. Big gap over here, but generally speaking, everything around there is pretty much done. I need to put a little bit more gravel in back there. I need to get another block and or stepping stone, figure that out over here, but at least there's enough of it in there that somebody's not going to step into a giant hole. Up here, we got the stepping stones, then you can step onto the wall there, and then when you get over there, you've got a little bit more stable place so you can get up and step over the wall. Let's try not to rely on the wall too much. But, yeah, this has been a bit of a project to get to this point, and I think I need to move on to other projects and then come back to this. Maybe tomorrow I'll get some transplanting done. But then that's also when I do the regular update. So that's it for today. Good morning, gardening friends. It is Sunday, but this is actually still part of the midweek. I have a little bit more to do here. There's one thing that's been driving me a little bit crazy, and I also want to get the transplanting done, and then I'm going to have to get to some of those other projects around here and come back to this for the last bits. But let me just sort of run you through it. Okay, so the thing that's been driving me crazy is this one box here. This corner is down, and I can see it. I don't know how obvious it's going to be to everybody else, but just kind of looking at it head on, maybe you can see that that corner is just low. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the boxes to the left of it out. Not a big deal to do that. And I'm going to stuff some of the gravel that I have there underneath that corner and try and get it back up again. And then if I have to, I'll put a little more dirt in there. Beyond that, then I'm going to move on to the transplanting, getting the plants that used to be over in this area back into some pots here so I can get the pots out of the planter that's the terracing that's over there and give that space back. So I mean, a lot of stuff was temporary while I was working on this. So let me go ahead and get that taken care of and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, here's a pleasant little surprise. I went to go grab the second of the basil plants, and if you've watched a few of my videos, you know that I tend to, when I trim off these flowers that show up, these flower ends, I'm trying to make sure I get that in the shot. Well, you can see one in the background there. So I trim these things off and I just put them down in the bottom just in case I might get another one to sprout. Well, I got one sprouting there, got another one sprouting there. They look like they could both be basil. That one for sure looks like basil. This one I'm not 100% sure about. It looks like actually it could be something different, but I think what I'm going to do, because I have enough basil and I have more seeds, and these are older plants, especially this one here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give up on this plant itself, but I'm going to plant the little sprouts because they'll have a better chance of surviving maybe than the big one that I've already put in here. And that one I also need to trim all those little flowers off. But that's the plan. Oops. Well, the phone overheated, the camera shut down in the middle of that time lapse, so I just said, okay, I'll give the phone a break, and next thing I know, I'm done. But I've got this basil transplanted. Moved a few things around slightly, but mainly I got my peppers in here, and there were a couple more pepper plants, but I've now repotted those. The big pot, the big round pot that had the tomato originally, that was an interesting situation. It looks like I may become a worm farmer at this point. That had a lot of worms in it, which are really good for the soil, but I've got a whole bunch of extra soil left over from this project, which I'll eventually use in additional pots, like whatever I'm going to put in here and filling in the other gaps. So I've got that, I've got the other potted plants, I'm sure I can make use of it, and meanwhile I've got kind of a big bin full of soil with the worms doing their thing. So that makes me happy on that. I'm sorry I didn't let you see the whole effort, but this is what it's looking like now. And I think I'm going to wrap up at least the project for now, because I've got other projects I've got to get to. So the next thing you see will probably be tomorrow or the next day, me pulling weeds, if that's even of interest at all. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Good morning, gardening friends. Forgive the sounds in the distance there. That's my neighbor having trees trimmed. It's early on a Tuesday morning. I did take yesterday off after all the work this weekend, and we're looking at some serious wind coming up. So I'm gonna, sorry, I feel like I'm dodging things here. We got some wind coming up, so I'm gonna see about picking some of the fruit off the trees. That is, I'm trying to pick it off the trees before it falls on the ground and becomes unusable. always the fun part, is shaking the tree at the end just to see what wants to fall. But if I do that, at least I know that most of what's going to come out of that tree in high winds has already come out, and I got a chance to grab it before it sits on the ground for too long and starts getting attacked by animals. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if I'm going to do anything else today, so this may be the end of today's stuff once the wind hits. And the sprinklers have gone off, so the hill is very wet, but who knows, we may go up and actually try and do some weeding. We'll see. Oh, I almost forgot to show you what I got. That's a nice haul. These things are huge. I mean, these are grapefruit sized, at least down here. This one, let me see if I can pull this, extract this one out. That is a grapefruit sized orange. That is amazing. So we'll go wash these off and enjoy them. Okay, so I guess we are going to try a little more. I'm going to try and go after the weeds in the front here, under the tree, at least until it starts to get really crazy. Well, a rare family weeding session. All three of us, myself and my parents, cleared up the area back here. Mostly. I mean, it's windy. We're not trying to be perfect because stuff's going to get blown right back into it. Ooh, bird of paradise turning color. Nice. Hadn't noticed that before. Cleaned out some of the bed here. Didn't quite finish, but that's okay. Come around this way. Back to the old familiar view. And you can see Dad got up on the hill and cut that tree way back again. If you watched my videos before, you know that probably 2-3 times a year we do that. You have to cut a ton of it off. Pretty much filled one of the large green cans, one of those large cans. So, and here comes the wind as I finish. So that's it for today. We'll see what we get done tomorrow. Good morning, gardening friends. It's the next day, and I wanted to check in on the worms, so let's take a look. Got myself a small bag of some table scraps. I'm going to add to the worms. Here's the bin. I've been trying to make sure I keep it moist, and so let's see what... I put some table scraps in yesterday. Let me actually lift this up more. Okay, there's a little condensation coming off the bottom there. So that's probably a good sign. Yeah, it does look reasonably moist here. Oh, and there's one. Okay, he's probably not too happy that I've just exposed him, but let's give him some more food. Try to do this one-handed here. So we did pick citrus yesterday. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it, so I'm adding those in, and I'll figure out what else I might want to add in. Maybe I'll put in some newspaper scraps or something like that, but we'll see. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to check in on them. So, we had another family session of weeding. Mom got a bunch of stuff in here. She says she's not done, but I'd say it's pretty good. And with the wind blowing and other stuff, it's just, you're never going to get it perfect. But Dad got up on the hill here and started pulling, worked his way over that way. I kind of started from the black garbage can and worked my way back this way, because ultimately the weeds up there are going to get pulled either soon or later when we do terracing. And I also want to mention let me get this right. This is an agave plant. I keep thinking yucca because that's what we thought it was for so long. It's actually agave, and we put a support under it to get it standing up a little better. But I was going to say, you know, I've got a piece of wood here, I've got a level, I've got a tape measure, I've got a bunch of these stakes in the ground. So I've started counting off to figure out how much terracing if we do the entire backyard versus just a portion of it, 8 feet, something like that. Anyway, I think I calculated about 48, maybe 52. Let's just call it 50 for roundness. About 50 feet of terracing, because ultimately once I start putting it in, we're probably going to find that my measurements are off just when you do it sort of 8 feet at a time, and then you have to try and eyeball where you're putting the stake. So the next thing is I want to do, the reason I got the board and a level here is because that stake is 4 feet, so that stake has nothing to do with the calculation of left to right. That one is there so I can find 4 feet from the front edge of the wall here, as I wanted to see how much of a rise there was. Ultimately what I'm trying to do is calculate the slope of the hill, because with that I'll be able to figure out how many steps and how much lumber we're going to need, and we'll probably just end up doing it in stages, because just to go all the way across, or even just to go 16 feet behind all of this, just to do that is that's going to be a bunch of lumber. It's going to probably be like $100 in materials. I mean, this entire project, that was just for 16 feet, was 16 feet one level, and if we've got 3 times that in terms of the total width, then you're talking $300 just for each step going up. So you want to be a little careful how you do it, so you don't end up buying way more lumber than you need, and you got a whole bunch of 4x4s and you don't know what to do with them. So that's kind of my thinking on all of this. As I'm wrapping up this week's progress video, I'm starting to plan for either I'm going to get up and weed and do other things this coming week, or we'll come up with a cogent plan for the terracing and start buying materials and start doing that. So I'm not sure which direction we're going, but that's where I'm going to leave it. This is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying stay safe and may your thumb be green.